When I look to my left and I look to my right, I see a lot of new faces have joined this fight, and it feels so good to see you. Welcome. Thank you. So tell me, what do you see? Is it the same energy, or was it just a trend? Because when I scroll down my timeline, I see a lot of people fighting to get back to normal. And trust me, I get it. I want to enjoy life too. But on June 2nd, 2020, when we all posted those black squares and people were pledging their solidarity, I thought the point was that we all recognized that there was a need for change, and we can't go back to that normal. That normal wasn't respecting me. Regis didn't matter in that normal. That normal is killing us. And as you fight to get back to what was, I'm fighting to elevate your thoughts on what could be. See, we're on the verge of something big, massive, huge. We have the opportunity to be a part of one of the most transformative times in history, a moment in time that could be remembered in history books as people who truly fought for change. This is an opportunity, and I'm going to say that a few times. And if we take this opportunity, we can make some significant steps towards equality. But it'll take extraordinary effort to achieve such extraordinary results. Now, I truly believe that this unrest and discomfort represents our growing pains as a society, and that if we all do our part, there can be great discovery in this discomfort. Now, I never thought I'd see this chance for change in my lifetime. And as a matter of fact, I spent many years building up a wall around me to protect me, developing a threshold of tolerance to mistreatment, harassment, just to get me through. So as much as this excites me, it also terrifies me. Because my trauma just cannot be a trend. From a young age, I was well aware of what being black meant, and that we're not treated equal. Now, the law says we're equal, but in practice, nothing could be further from the truth. Before I ever opened my mouth, teachers, classmates, even friends' parents automatically made sweeping judgments about me. And you see, if you're not a person of color, it's hard to truly understand how diminishing this is. I know that until I open my mouth and articulate myself, there is an imposed feeling of being lesser than, which doesn't get any easier even when you're 35 years old. In North America, our society is built on white supremacy. Think about that for a minute. Now, I'm not saying that everyone subscribes to the extreme end of the spectrum, but everyone has biases that are ingrained in us from a very young age. Now, you may not think you use your white privilege, but are you willing to lose your white privilege? As a kid, I learned very quickly to tone down everything I said and did. I didn't want to feed into the stereotypes. I didn't want to be labeled as a troublemaker or give anyone a reason to write me off. See, even my hair, I didn't lock my hair for years because I didn't want to lose out on getting hired somewhere. And I tried once, I tried twice, I tried 3 times to get on TV, and I never got hired. And I said, you know what, forget it, whatever. No TV for me. I'm just going to be me. I'm going to lock my hair. So I decided to lock my hair in November of 2010. And I'll tell you what, God is good, because I got hired to be the host of Rap City in December of the same year. Luckily for me, I had a strong black woman I called mother, and I grew up in the house with 4 women who constantly gave me the pep talks that I had to work twice as hard, be twice as talented, have manners, pray, and dress well. See, I was taught to survive in a system that doubts me first. I've been conditioned to mute myself. And maybe, if I'm really polite and present myself as harmless and speak with less bass in my voice, I'll grow up to survive a traffic stop. Now, but for real, my mom did what she had to do. My mom gave me the tools to survive, and I'm so grateful. But to me, I'm fighting for equality now. And equality means that I will not be teaching my daughter to work twice as hard for any other reason than that's what she has to offer the world. Even in high school, I had to pick my battles. If someone said something racist, I would think about Jay-Z's line where he said, "A wise man told me, don't argue with fools because people from a distance can't tell who is who." And I'm a big boy, so I stood up for myself, but there were certain times that I was guilty of just not wanting to bother. You see, I guess I've always just had this choice: stand up for myself and be damned for being that big, angry black guy, or sacrifice my voice and ride out the discomfort, be complicit to my own demise. And if you think about it, is that even really a choice? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And my life has been a constant battle of choosing between the lesser of those two evils. But every time I bit my tongue, I was unknowingly killing my own truth. So, as a grown man, when I was asked a simple question on national television, "Tyrone, how are you?" For once, I told my truth. With 10 years of experience in front of the camera, I could have responded with countless replies that would have been safe and expected. But in that moment, I decided to unmute myself. I decided to speak up for all the times that I didn't, for all of those who couldn't. And what seemed like an emotional breakdown on national television was actually my greatest personal breakthrough. The endless microaggressions, the extreme trauma of observing the murder of innocent black people all around me. And then somehow, most of my white counterparts, not all, that are usually up on everything, just didn't notice. Or at least they weren't as upset as I was about it. And it had finally taken its toll. See, I didn't plan to go on national television and cry my eyes out that day. But it felt like a lifetime of suppressing my true feelings was pouring out. And this time, I wasn't concerned about how I looked. I went with how I felt. All the things I had worked so hard not to do, not to ruffle any feathers, not to get too angry, not to cry. Ironically, I was finally liberated as the angry black man. Hashtag angry black man. Until this day, every week, a complete stranger, a man will walk up to me and say, "I saw your segment, Tyrone. Thank you. I cried with you." Only 3 years ago, there were 3 words that could silence a room. People looked at you crazy if you said it. Like, why are you saying that? You guys know what those 3 words were? Black Lives Matter. And on June 2nd of 2020, there was an obvious shift, an awareness, an awakening. It's not political. It's not selfish. It's not aggressive. It's just true. People hear systemic racism, and they have the same initial reaction today. What do you mean? Is it really racist, T? It's not systemic. See, these systems aren't against you, and I respond and I say, look, the systems aren't for us. They don't include us. So therefore they are. When I heard Anthony Anderson make a joke at the 2020 Emmys, saying that this would have been the blackest Emmys ever because it had been the most black people nominated ever, and everybody was excited, but it's a pandemic, so everybody had to stay home. And he said, but it's all good because you guys couldn't light us anyways. You guys couldn't light us anyways. It made me think, wow, this is the black experience across the board. For example, I've held up a number of shoots over the years because of lighting issues. You can be a licensed hairstylist and not be required to know how to work with my texture. You can be a makeup artist for the stars and never have to learn how to do my makeup without making me look gray or orange. I just want to be brown, y'all. I just want to be brown. I want to walk into the makeup room and leave brown. The fact that we're not included is why we say systemic racism. If a system excludes you based on your race, it is. Now, As a result, that adds an extra layer to our days, just making things that much heavier and less enjoyable. And it's a reminder that not only is there not too many people around that look like you, but really you're lucky to even be there, because not really meant to be. Another thing we've all heard recently is amplifying Black voices. I just want to say that respecting my voice is the first step before wanting to amplify it. So understanding me is far more important than pitying me. We aren't looking for handouts or hand-me-downs, just hire the qualified people. And there's a commitment now to hire BIPOC, which is needed and welcomed. But it also hurts because it's a reminder that Tanya may very well have been a good candidate, but wasn't right for the job. Right for the job. I need you to understand that Black people, we aren't where we are in society because we're lazy. No, we've been strategically limited to resources, looked over for promotions in the workplace, denied loans, and crippled by our postal codes. So before you amplify my voice, I just want you to be aware of what we've been going through, what our mothers and fathers were up against. My mother has worked 3 jobs at times. My uncle worked for NASA as an award-winning engineer. I had friends that were in and out of jail. My auntie was a nurse for 30 years. My neighbor was one of the most highly recruited basketball players in high school. But I want to tell you this. They were all racially profiled, followed in a store, denied loans, and even the basic decency at the emergency room, or even common courtesy while doing groceries. I say all that because you can only be as compassionate as you are understanding. So I need you to understand how difficult it is for me to even be here today. There's no clear path for me, but somehow there are roadblocks. So what can you do? On June 2nd, we've seen a lot of these Black squares, and I appreciate it. I hope it was a catalyst for you to learn, listen, share, because sharing is key. But this is a perfect segue for me to quickly discuss theory versus the practical. See, the theory only required you to make statements. The practical is requiring you to take action. The theory is acknowledging systemic racism and police brutality as an ongoing problem. The practical is being willing to do something about it. Theory, I am not racist. Practical, I am anti-racist. The theory is comforting, but the practical is when we apply it to our own lives, and only then does it become liberating and impactful. Starting with yourself. What do you believe? What do you stand for? Teach your children to love themselves and others. And if you share the desire for change, let that be reflected in the spaces you occupy, the roles you play, and the decisions you have a hand in making. We are all cautious of the unknown, but let's agree to acknowledge what is known. Blacks are not in a position to win. We are structurally not intended to contend. We are resilient, yes, but the goal is to level the playing field in all aspects of life. The thought that after all this, that we just tire and go back to normal, that scares me. Because that's the history of this struggle. That's also the privilege afforded to everyone but Black people. We have no excuse. We have science and technology. We should have the humanity. We are able to make some significant changes in the world before our official restart. Another shot at this, more conscious of humanity and our environment. Because trust me, we have failed at both pre-COVID. I am fueled by love, driven by hope. And I know change is hard. It can be uncomfortable. It can be unfamiliar. But as I go through my own evolution, I see it mirrored in the world around me. And I'm sensing that we're on the verge of a whole new standard. I pray that you will not pass on this opportunity. The world needs change. Our children are watching. Life depends on it. My trauma is not a trend. Thank you. One love.